So we're going to talk about affirmations today. Now, this is kind of one of those buzzwords in pop psychology. And you probably have heard the term positive affirmations before, but maybe no one's ever explained to you why they work, right? A lot of times people say, well, just think positive. And we all know that's not always the case. We can't always just think positive. And positive thinking isn't really all that we need to get through our day. So today I want to kind of maybe uncover some of the science behind affirmations and why they work. And then later on, we're going to talk about how to create an affirmation that can be actually useful for you in your day-to-day life. Okay. If you have questions during this presentation, go ahead and enter them into the chat. You are welcome to unmute and converse if you'd like to, but we do record everything that we do here. And so if you don't want to end up on the recording, then I would just say wait until the end and we'll have some time to have that conversation, okay? All right, so our agenda for today, what are affirmations? How do they work? What are the benefits? How do we use them? And some suggestions to get started. So keep in mind, I am a therapist, but I am not the expert on all things affirmations, okay? This is a general overview. And if you want further information, I do have some sites that I sorted or some sources that I've cited within the presentation. And if you'd like those for a deeper dive, just let me know and I can send those your way, okay? All right, so what are affirmations? So the textbook definition, they're positive intentional statements that help redirect our attention towards strengths, values, and abilities. So every day, our thoughts and emotions, they influence how we feel about things, right? How we respond, how we cope to life's challenges. There's been a lot of research done on the power of affirmations and the brain. And so research shows that the brain is constantly adapting through a process that we call neuroplasticity. Okay. That just means that our repeated thoughts and experience help shape the pathways in our brains. And so, as caregivers, we often spend a lot of time supporting other people, right? And we forget that the impact of our own thoughts on our well being can be tremendous, right? But the good news is we have the capacity to change those thoughts throughout our lives, okay? Because of that neuroplasticity. It's just the capacity our brains have to not be stagnant and fixed, right? We can change our minds, literally, okay? And affirmations are one way that we can support that change. So again, they're positive, intentional statements that redirect our attention to our strengths, our values, and our abilities, okay? Research suggests that affirmations can reduce stress, build resilience, and help us cope more effectively with these challenges. And so, if we practice affirmations regularly, we can strengthen those healthier thought patterns and we can create a more supportive inner dialogue. Okay, I don't have to tell you all that some of the meanest things we've ever heard have come from our own minds, right? We can give grace and compassion and the benefit of the doubt to every single person on the planet. Yet when it comes to ourselves, we're very, very cruel a lot of times, right? And so we can strengthen these patterns, create a more healthy and supportive inner dialogue. And over time, that can help you feel more confident, balanced, and better equipped to care for your loved one, but also for yourself, okay? Now, before we get any further, I want to kind of give a little bit of a side-by-side between positive affirmations and positive thinking, okay? So both positive affirmations and positive thinking use optimistic thoughts that lead to self-improvement, okay? But they are interrelated and they have significant distinctions, okay? So a positive affirmation, these are empowering words and phrases that you recite repeatedly to challenge negative thoughts and improve self-perception. Okay, so positive affirmations are often focused on specific goals or areas for self-improvement. And positive thinking involves focusing regularly on healthy thoughts and beliefs when things don't go as planned. And this can apply to all aspects of your life. Okay, so affirmations can be used as a tool to create a mindset that is conducive to positive thought patterns. Okay, so they're kind of linked. Think of it as the affirmations is kind of like the foundation, and the positive thinking is what kind of emerges from that foundation. Okay, so positive affirmations can be the soil, positive thinking can be what grows from that soil. All right. So, how do affirmations work? Okay. So, the exciting thing about affirmations is not that they work, which is pretty exciting, but they can also shape how our brains respond to stress. Okay. And you're going to learn over the presentation that if we're consistent with this, it'll change the way we kind of see things. Okay. So, research suggests that positive self talk can activate the areas of the brain that are linked to motivation, reward, and emotional well being. So, people who practice positive thinking, of course, are not free from challenges. Okay, I wish. But it may make you better equipped to handle stresses, right? And challenges. So, affirmations, along with mindful practices, meditations, things like that, that can help you focus on your strengths and what matter the most. So I've mentioned before in previous trainings the thing that we all have called the negativity bias. Okay. This is a very ancient survival mechanism in our brain that says, we're going to always scan for danger and we're going to assume danger over safety. Okay. Reason why is, of course, if you assume there's a tiger in the savannah and you take off, it's not going to eat you, right? But if you assume it's a rock and it's actually a tiger, guess what? Your lunch, right? So we're going to always assume the worst so that we can take action to protect ourselves. In modern day life, though, that can become very complicated, right? If we assume everything is dangerous, everything is a threat, we are going to be in that activation of threat and that threat response a lot more frequently. Okay. And so that's where a lot of us become chronically stressed, right? It's that overactive negativity bias. And so caregivers, of course, face stress every day. And affirmations can be a simple tool to help you stay grounded, can help you build resilience to that stress and those challenges, and build greater confidence and self-compassion, which is a key component to sustainable caregiving, right? If you're spending all day long beating yourself up, talking about how terrible of a caregiver you are and how you can't do it all on your own, you're going to believe that, right? So our thoughts don't always lean towards compassion for ourselves, and affirmations can kind of reroute that to become more self-compassionate, okay? So again, our brains are designed to look for patterns and take shortcuts, okay? And this helps us make quick decisions, but it can also influence what we notice, right? What are we paying attention to? So think of it this way, or here's an example. Have you ever bought a new car and you suddenly start seeing that same model everywhere you go, right? Or that color, right? I would really like to have a red car. Then all of a sudden everybody in town is driving a red car, right? Because you notice it. Well, the cars are always there, but now your brain is tuned into them, okay? And so the same thing can happen with our thoughts. If we repeatedly tell ourselves negative things, our brains are going to start scanning for proof of that, okay? So we're going to be more likely to notice evidence that supports the beliefs that we're telling ourselves, okay? On the other hand, when we practice positive and realistic affirmations, we begin to notice our strengths. We start to see more opportunities. We start to see our successes more often, right? If you're telling yourself, I'm a good caregiver, your brain is going to start scanning the environment to support that belief that you have, okay? And this is across the board, right? This isn't just about caregiving and stress, okay? We are going to scan our environment to prove our bias all the time, okay? And it's automatic. So affirmations don't change our reality, but they do change what we focus on. Okay. So yes, there are times where you're going to be making mistakes as a caregiver, right? You're going to say the wrong thing. You're going to do the wrong thing, but that's not proof that you're a bad caregiver, right? We focus on that, then that's all we see, then that's what we believe, right? So over time, affirmations can shift our attention and help us again build that confidence and have a more balanced perspective. Okay. You might do some things wrong, but you're not doing everything wrong, right? And we have to be okay with that balance, okay? So what are the benefits? I kind of went over a few of them already. But of course, as caregivers, can be our harshest critics, right? We may tell ourselves we're not doing enough, that we should be stronger, asking for help is a sign of weakness, right? Or I don't want to bother anybody. That's a big one. And so these thoughts can lead to self-sabotaging behaviors like perfectionism, right? A lot of us struggle with perfectionism. And we're going to talk about that actually in a later training this month about perfectionism. It can lead to guilt, right? And it can also lead to neglecting our own needs, right? Some of you will justify self-neglect because you compare yourself to the needs of your loved one, right? Well, the person I'm caring for needs more help than I do. And so I'm going to go ahead and put my needs on the back burner and adjust theirs, which is absolutely appropriate in a lot of scenarios, right? And a lot of times you do have to kind of wait on your needs to provide for your loved one. The problem is many of us forget to go back and take care of our needs when we have the time, right? Or to create time. We just kind of forget about it and we just kind of white knuckle through things and we don't stop and reassess our situation, take care of ourselves, right? So affirmations help interrupt these thought patterns by replacing self-criticism with more supportive and empowering beliefs. Okay, so when we remind ourselves of our strengths, our values, our efforts, we can build that confidence and reduce that self-doubt. Okay, and we can also be more inclined to make choices that support both our well-being and the people that we care for. Okay, caring for you is caring for them. Okay, they will not be able to sustain themselves. You have to be there for them, which means you have to be well enough to show up for them. Okay, so we cannot continue to push our well-being on to the side because it's going to collapse on both of you. Okay, so we can overcome self-sabotage with affirmations, right? Positive affirmations can stop that self-sabotage cycle by interrupting that negative thought pattern. Okay, we can have low self-esteem, fear of failure, okay, all that kind of stuff um, can happen because of how mean we're being to ourselves in our mind, right? When we're constantly criticizing ourselves. Affirmations can change problematic beliefs, right? Those I can't beliefs, and they can promote self-confidence, okay? And affirmations challenge unhelpful beliefs that threaten the self. Okay, I'm lazy. I'm not a good caregiver. I'm selfish for taking a day off. Right. Benefits again can reduce negative self-talk and negative feelings. Okay, so many caregivers carry an ongoing stream of self-criticism. I should be doing more. I'm not handling this well enough. I'm failing the people I care about. Okay. I particularly see this in those of you caring for loved ones with progressive diseases like dementia, right? Where the needs change and where you could handle it in the beginning, it's more difficult now because the needs are more intense. Or those of you caring for children with special needs, right? Maybe when they're little, it was easier to distract them or to help manage their symptoms and their expressions. But then if they get older or if they get bigger than you, right, that could be a bit more challenging. And so you can be like, I'm not good at this. I can't do this anymore, right? Um, and so we can feel like we're failing when we're not, right? And so when these thoughts are repeated often, that obviously has an impact on our self-confidence, right? It can change the way we see ourselves. It can change our mood, right? Just our overall well-being. And so affirmations can challenge that inner critic and replace harsh judgments with more supportive and balanced messages, right? So with regular practice, they can help create a healthier inner dialogue, right? And it can remind us to extend the same compassion to ourselves that we give to other people, right? So regularly engaging in negative self-talk, that can really impact your well-being, your mental well-being. So if we're repeating phrases like, I'm useless, I'll never be good enough, that's going to lead to anxiety. And anxiety can lead to depression, right? And that can lead to low self-esteem. And so positive affirmations can be an antidote to those negative feelings and self-talk, okay? So if you notice, it's the repetition that makes a difference, right? You didn't just wake up one day and feel bad about yourself, right? You told yourself over time, over and over and over again, repeated in your mind that you're not good enough, right? That you're useless, that you're not good at this, right? And so that pattern became your reality. And affirmations work the same way, okay? What we feed will thrive, what we starve will die, right? So we all know that caregiving by nature can make it easy to fall into these negative thinking patterns because things get hard and they get hard fast, right? And so we will often focus on what went wrong and assume we're not doing enough or believe that one difficult day means that we're failing. Okay. As a caregiver, you are going to have difficult days. You're going to have days where you step in it, right? You're going to have days where, hey, I haven't learned this yet because it shifted on me. And so now I'm kind of fumbling through, right? And so those thoughts, if we say, we're messing up, we're not good at this, that can increase our stress and make an already challenging situation feel even heavier, right? And so again, affirmations help you to pause those automatic reactions, okay? We replace self-criticism with more balanced and supportive messages, okay? And this helps us build greater emotional resilience over time, okay? So here's a quick mental health lesson for you, okay? We're going to talk about negative thinking patterns, okay? So there's these things that we call cognitive distortions, just stinking thinking, right? Whatever you want to call them. And some very common ones are listed here on the screen. So catastrophizing. This is where you think the worst thing that can happen will happen, right? So maybe you call your mom and she didn't answer her phone. And so instead of thinking, well, she's in the bathroom, she's taking a nap, maybe she didn't hear the phone ring, you think, oh, she fell, broke her hip, and she's halfway dead, right? You just immediately jump to that catastrophe, right? Another one is overgeneralization. So if you find yourself saying things like, um, I'm always this way, right? I never fill in the blank, right? Everybody, right? We're using those words that kind of blanket all things and all people and all things in that situation. But that's not always true, right? You're not always messing up. You messed up this time, right? So that's another distortion. Jumping to conclusions, right? It's where you don't get all the information before you determine the outcome, and it's almost always going to be bad, right? Well, I'm not going to ask so and so for help because, they're going to say no, right? Well, you don't know that. They might have said no a few times, but that doesn't mean they're going to say no every time. So we jump to that conclusion, and then we just talk ourselves out of asking for help, right? And then the next is all or nothing. We do this a lot, right? We have one bad day and then we label ourselves as horrible caregivers, right? We, lose our temper once with our kids. Oh, now I am the worst parent ever, right? Because you're either all good or you're all bad, right? So all or nothing. So these are common distortions that we experience. And practicing affirmations can help you kind of break through those repetitive thought patterns, right? But again, repetition of positive daily affirmations, that's the key, okay? It's not just telling yourself one day an affirmation, okay? You have to consistently tell yourself the same affirmation over and over again, right? We're creating new patterns in the brain. We're kind of using that skill of that capacity of neuroplasticity that I talked about before to change the way we view ourselves and the world that we are in. So let's dive into how we use them. Okay, we just talked about repetition, and that's really what it's all about, right? Affirmations are like any other skill. Okay, we become more effective with practice. So repeating positive, meaningful statements can help reinforce the messages that we want to focus on. Okay. So we also need to make sure that we're choosing affirmations that are relevant to our lives and our current challenges, okay? We want to repeat them throughout the day or at least before tough moments, right? Stressful moments. So like difficult conversations, or whenever we feel that self-doubt creeping in, right? So even taking a few moments to remind yourself that you're doing the best you can, or that you deserve care too, right? That kind of stuff can really help. And this is what we're trying to do. We're trying to create a more supportive and compassionate mindset over time. Okay. This is not a one and done situation. Okay. So we're not trying to convince ourselves of something overnight. We're trying to gradually build a healthier and more supportive mindset. So think of it like if you start to work out, right? You can't just spend one day in the gym and then come out with, glutes like Megan Thee Stallion. Like that's not going to work, right? We have to be in the gym consistently, right? The same is true for affirmations, okay? The success of these affirmations is largely going to be found in the repetition, okay? So, simple ways to do it. Find a calm and comfortable space. Okay. We don't need perfect environments to practice affirmations. Sometimes when we think of things like mindfulness or meditation or affirmations, we think we have to clear our schedule for a whole afternoon. We have to sit in complete silence with, tranquil, water moving around in the back or something like that, right? And those can be beautiful things and they can be used when it makes sense. But you don't have to have those things, okay? It doesn't have to be this big ordeal in an already tight schedule, okay? We just need to find some place where we can pause for a few moments and focus on ourselves, okay? So this could be during your morning routine, right? Brushing your teeth, maybe taking a walk, sitting on the porch, or even just kind of sitting in a car before an appointment, or maybe, you drop somebody off and you're just waiting for them to see their doctor and you can practice your affirmations there, right? So we just want to take a few deep breaths and kind of settle the body, repeat the affirmation slowly, and imagine what it would feel like to believe it fully. Okay. What would it feel like to believe that you're a good caregiver? What would it feel like to believe that you're doing the best you can? What would it feel like to believe that you're competent and capable? Right? That's what we want to kind of focus on. Okay. And again, we're just trying to like let that simmer in our mind, right? And become something we focus on. So caregivers, of course, it's hard to find quiet time, right? That can definitely be a challenge. But the good news is affirmations don't require a whole lot of time. Okay. Just a few intentional moments throughout the day can really make a meaningful difference. All right. So try not to be intimidated by this practice. Okay. Creating personal and realistic affirmations. I think this is the key step that a lot of people miss. Okay. We kind of get these big blanket statements that don't really make sense or they're not very realistic. Okay. So they work best when they reflect your own values, your own experiences, and your own goals. So think about the challenges you face as a caregiver and create statements that feel supportive and authentic. So it's good to avoid stock affirmations, but if you need to use those just to get started or you need some inspiration, there's a majillion of them online. I know majillion isn't a real word, but it is now. I just made it up. But there's a bunch online if you need some inspiration, okay? But ideally, you want to create them that make sense for you, right? So if you say, I am never going to lose my temper again, right? That's not a realistic expectation. That's not a realistic affirmation because you're a human being, okay? And if you say you're never going to be angry again, you might as well just, dig a hole and sit in it till the end of time because that's the only way you're going to never not be angry, right? To never have anything in your life impacting your mood, right? So we want to be realistic, okay? So instead of expecting perfection, we want to focus on growth and progress. Okay. So keep in mind the word trajectory. Okay. That can really change your perspective of things, right? Because we're talking about small incremental steps in the direction we want to go. Okay. So you're not going to go A to B, boom, right? You're going to go 8.1, 8.2, 8.3, right? You're going to take these tiny increments towards the right direction. And so as long as you are on a right trajectory, count it as a win, okay? Goals are goals because they take work to get there, okay? They will not be, this is not something that's going to just blossom in you overnight. So please don't be discouraged, okay? So for example, we can say, I am learning to care for myself while caring for others. That's a positive affirmation, okay? Why is that a positive affirmation? Because in it, it's acknowledging the process, right? I'm learning to care for myself, right? So often I hear caregivers, I need to be better at that. I need to do that more. I should be doing this more, right? And what's in that, what's kind of lined in that? Shame, right? I know I should be doing something, but I'm not. And so now I feel bad about it. But if you say, I'm learning, right? That says, I'm not where I'd like to be, but I'm getting closer every day, right? So there's some self-compassion, there's some grace wrapped into that, okay? I'm doing the best I can with the resources I have. Not, I need to make more money. I need more time. Yes, join the club. But you're still in that process. I'm doing the best I can with what I have, right? That's acknowledging where you are. It's acknowledging where you're going. And it's not slapping you on the hand for where you are, okay? So we want to try to frame these affirmations positively by focusing on the qualities and the behaviors that we want to strengthen, right? And so the more meaningful and believable the message feels, the more likely you are to return to it when you need it most, okay? And we don't want to include negative thoughts in a positive affirmation, okay? When you say things, I'm never going to do this again, okay? That's not an affirmation because you're being negative, right? I'm working towards this. Same thing, different flavor, right? So we want to combine affirmations with other positive practices, okay? So when they become part of your daily routine, they're going to work the best for you. So if you try pairing them with other healthy habits, like setting goals, practicing mindfulness, visualizing how we want to respond to challenging situations, they're going to stick a lot better. So, for example, before a difficult appointment or a conversation, you might repeat an affirmation like, I can handle this one step at a time, while imagining yourself staying calm and confident. Okay? I can handle this one step at a time, right? That's encouraging, that's realistic, it's positive, right? Again, the key is consistency, right? You maybe want to try keeping your affirmations visible, right? Put them on a phone, put them on a sticky note, write them on a mirror with lipstick, right? Whatever you have to do. And then you can return to them whenever stress or self-doubt begins to surface, which it will, especially if you're caught in a pattern of negative thinking. That self-doubt is just waiting for its time, right? It's just waiting in the wings to jump and make you feel like crap. At least that's how it feels sometimes, right? But again, the key is consistency, okay? So how do we create an effective affirmation? So choose an area where you'd like more confidence, more balance, more patience maybe, or even some more self-compassion. As the person that I am and doing the job that I do, I think if we start with self-compassion, it makes everything else so much easier, okay? But you start where you feel you need to start. Create one that feels realistic, meaningful, and aligned with your values, okay? Keep it positive and present focused, okay? So we don't want to focus on what we don't want. We want to focus on the strengths and qualities we'd like to develop, okay? Choose words that resonate with you emotionally, okay? I think, try really hard to manage our emotions and we spend very little time listening to them, right? Something feels uncomfortable, we tend to shove it to the side. But I would invite all of you to be curious, okay, when those uncomfortable feelings come up, and ask them what they want to say to you, right? An affirmation is more powerful when it feels authentic and personally meaningful. So this is why I cautioned against using stock affirmations, because they can be beautiful lyrics and all that stuff, but they might not resonate as much as one that you write yourself. Okay. And again, if you want to start with stock affirmations, by all means, okay, as long as you're starting, right? That's what matters the most. Okay. But here are some more examples. I am doing the best I can each day, right? Some days you are just on it, right? Everything flows, everybody gets up on time, everyone gets dressed and ready for the day, and you don't have to fight anybody to go to take a shower. You're not halfway out the door and somebody needs, they soiled themselves. Now you got to go back and fix that, right? And you got the meds right, you got the doctor's appointment on time, right? You're really, really doing it, right? And then other days it feels like a total flop, right? Because everything that could go wrong did go wrong. However, in both scenarios, I'm doing the best I can each day, right? This does not, this affirmation is not contingent on an outcome, right? It's acknowledging the effort and the reality that you're in. I'm doing the best I can each day, right? I deserve care and compassion too, right? That one is a little bit interesting as an affirmation, right? Because again, it's just reaffirming, hey, I can take breaks when I need them, right? I can accept compassion from myself. I don't have to be so hard on myself all the time, right? I deserve care and compassion too. I can handle challenges one step at a time, right? Most of you are really, really good at this, just taking one thing at a time, right? But we feel like we're struggling when we have to slow down, but we're not. We're doing it one at a time. And another example, my efforts make a difference. Okay. This may be difficult for some of you to believe, especially if you're caring for someone who is in active decline. And that's just the nature of their diagnosis. And all the care that you're giving to them is not going to make them better. It can be hard to think that your efforts make a difference, right? But they do. They absolutely do. Okay. All right. That's all my info for the day. This is my contact information. Office phone number. It's not a direct line. So if you just call and ask for me, they'll patch you through. And my email address. Okay. So if you want more information about this presentation, if you want the sources that I used to create it, or if you're interested in receiving any mental health services from me that we offer for free through the entire state of Alabama, you can reach out to me here and I'll get you started on the next steps, okay? I do have a list of people I'm working through, so if you're interested in the mental health services, it may take me a little bit to get to you, but as my schedule clears, I'm allowing more people on, so that's always an opportunity for you. And if your loved one that you're caring for would be interested in receiving free mental health services, let me know that as well. My colleague Kendra cares for the care recipient in that capacity. Right. Let me stop my share. And there we go. That's the button. Stop recording. There we go.